in. It's Kevin McPherson with HogvilleNET YouTube Live postgame. Number 16 Arkansas Razorbacks start off the John Calipari era as head hog officially tonight after some exhibition wins, mixed results in the exhibition season. But a big win tonight, 76-60. Arkansas defeats Lipscomb, a respected, worthy mid-major, a team coming off of already a season-opening win, 1-0 coming into tonight, a road win. So Lipscomb stayed on the road. A team that likes to get into the 80s. Arkansas did a good job defensively once again. But we're going to break everything down tonight in this postgame. We're also going to wrap up with a little bit of recruiting tidbits, just a few little talking points before I wrap it up and head back down the hill. But once again, welcome in. This was an interesting game simply because, what do you expect? What were you expecting from John Calipari's troops in the first outing? I really felt like this could turn into a track meet. Lipscomb likes to get up and down. That's just fine with Arkansas. And Arkansas did that at times and did a good job of really preventing Lipscomb, even though the ball movement was good. At times, Lipscomb is so in sync, all five players on the court together. They look like synchronized swimmers in how they do things. But Arkansas was disruptive, and that started early. I thought Arkansas's offense was stagnant to start. The half-court offense was stagnant. What did the Razorbacks do? They started getting steals and getting out in transition. Opportunistic scoring when the offense wasn't clicking. Three-point shooting continues to be a problem area. We'll get into that. But I thought the big key tonight was just Arkansas getting 11 steals, 23-5 advantage when the dust settled in fast break points. Arkansas also, when you look at points off turnovers, 25-13, so plus 12 there. And then points in the paint, a lot of that's when you're getting steals and going in, getting around the basket for dunks and layups. Those count as points in the paint as well as what you do in the half court. So 54-22, Arkansas plus 32 in points in the paint. Now, this was an Arkansas team when you look at different kinds of opponents in the exhibition season. Kansas, the number one team ranked in the country, and then TCU in a road game. Arkansas didn't win those points in the paint battles. They stayed close, but they didn't win them. Arkansas won that tonight. And then you go back and you think about the fact that Arkansas has now held the three opponents, even though those games didn't count. All of these teams like to push, run, and get to 80 points or better if they can. Arkansas has held three opponents, again, two exhibition games, and now this one, 66 or fewer points. Tonight, 76-60. This is, again, you're holding an opponent down that averaged 82 points per game last year as one of the best offensive teams in the country. 77-72, 5-point win over Duquesne on Monday, but shot really well, over 50% from the field, 9 of 21, well over 40% from the three-point line, and that just didn't happen tonight. Arkansas's defense holding Lipscomb, the Bison, 22 of 58, 37.9% from the field, and 9 of 27 from three. You'll take that percentage. It's good volume. You'll take the percentage, though, 33.3%. Because it's relative to what the Bison are used to shooting. That's holding that team down. Only 7 of 9 at the free throw line, 77.8%. We talked in the pregame yesterday. I talked a lot about how this Lipscomb team doesn't put up a lot of resistance defensively at times, but they don't foul a lot either. Arkansas only took 7 free throws in this game. If you look back at the TCU game, they didn't take a lot in that one. Another poor shooting night at the line for Arkansas, only 4 of 7. So Lipscomb limits the fouls. 4 of 7 for 57.1%. On a low night from the free throw line for both teams, that didn't hurt Arkansas. Arkansas 34 of 63 overall from the field, 54% shooting. A lot of that again was in transition. When you look at the three-point shooting, Arkansas is the team 4 of 19, 21.1%. It's even a lower watermark than the 6 of 24, followed by 7 of 24 in the exhibition season in those two games. So Arkansas continues to really struggle, sub-30s and three-point shooting, count the two exhibitions, and tonight it didn't matter. Arkansas was superior when you looked at the athleticism, length, all this we talked about in the pregame show yesterday, how I thought those advantages for Arkansas would really show up in this game. Lipscomb had second chance points. I think that's the only category really as a team that the Bison were able to win 18-6 there. But you look across the board here. Arkansas plus 7 in the final turnover margin, 19-12. The Hogs suffered 10 turnovers in each of the previous two games in the second halves. And tonight it looked like they were on pace to have another bad turnover night because they had their first bad first half of turnovers. They had 5 turnovers by the 10-minute mark in that first half. And Arkansas, basically if you want to break it up into quarters again, the last 30 minutes, the rest of the way Arkansas with only 7. So 12 total, plus 7 there because they forced 19 against Lipscomb. I mentioned plus 12 in points off turnovers, 25-13. Arkansas was plus 6 on the glass, 35-29. Only plus 1 in the offensive rebounding category. That is an improvement, but it's not much of one. You would think Arkansas would do better there. 6-5 advantage Arkansas. Bench points, Arkansas plus 6, 17-11. Points in the paint again, plus 32, 54-22. Those fast break points, I mentioned it, plus 18, 23-5. 5-1 in blocks, advantage Arkansas after having only 1 block against Kansas, 10 against TCU, 5 tonight. Arkansas's picking things up there in the rim protection game. Steals, again, Arkansas with 11 steals tonight. And most of those, there was a stretch where they had 6 steals in the first half, and the half-court offense wasn't working, but 6 of those steals led directly to transition points. You always look at points off turnovers are important, but then you want to see a lot of times when you get a turnover, you may end up in a half-court setting you weren't able to push, and you score. That counts as points off turnovers, but how many easy scores did you get off of them? A lot of live ball turnovers, a lot of transition buckets. Again, Arkansas had a stretch in the first half, 6 steals that led directly to 12 points in transition as they went 6 of 6 on layups and dunks. An assist, Arkansas plus 2, 10-8. So Arkansas won most of the categories against a good mid-major. We know Lipscomb gave Arkansas everything it wanted last year in North Little Rock at Simmons Bank Arena in North Little Rock. Lost by a possession, 69-66. Another low-scoring game relative to how that team wants to play and how Arkansas, certainly with this Razorbacks team, wants to play. Arkansas scored 85 points against Kansas, held to 65 against TCU, kind of split the difference here tonight. I think if things had clicked a little bit better in the half court and knocking down some threes, or maybe Arkansas getting more to the free throw line, we see the Razorbacks get closer to that Kansas score line at 85. But one of the things I talked about when I predicted an Arkansas win in the pregame yesterday, I said it might be in that 10 to 15 point range in the final margin. And if they were able to dominate certain aspects of the game, they might get it to 16 or more. So it kind of settled in there. That was about right. I think the betting line opened at 14.5 and may have settled around 13.5 coming into today. So I think Arkansas then, for most people, probably got a cover on that final boogie flan shot to expand that lead to 16 for anybody that got it, over 14 today. A lot of things here. I think the other part is we know against TCU, all 3 games Arkansas holds each opponent 66 points or fewer. The Razorbacks also built double-digit leads throughout against Kansas. Every time Kansas make a mini run, it never got close enough to feel like Arkansas was danger, and then they'd use their defense, get out in transition, and expand those leads back to double digits. Against TCU, Arkansas led by 8 at halftime, 39 points in the first half, and it became a grind game. Arkansas extended that lead to 13 points late in the third quarter, and then TCU was the more physical team, slowed things down, and Arkansas only ends up with 26 second-half points, loses 66-65. Tonight, there was a stretch when it looked like Arkansas was in trouble. The Hogs built 11-point lead by halftime. They had multiple 15-point leads kind of working their way midway through the second half. And then once you got down in that final stretch, Lipscomb made a run. It was a 9-0 run, and Arkansas was struggling on offense, not closing out possessions defensively. Lipscomb with that 9-0 run to pull within actually it was an 11-0 run to get to 60-56. So it was an 11-0 run with about eight minutes left, between 8 and 9 minutes left in the game. And you were thinking, or I was thinking, okay, we know what happened against TCU. What is Arkansas going to do in this situation now? When TCU made its run, Arkansas was never able to, prevent that from turning into a loss. What was going to happen here? And it ended up being Big Z. You saw Big Z shoot a 3 on the right wing to snap that run. Then he, following offensive possession after Arkansas got a stop on defense, he gets a traditional and one finish, knocks down his free throw. So a 6-0 run there expanded Arkansas back out. The Razorbacks were back out to a double-digit lead, 10 points, 56. And it was still almost 6 minutes left to play, so there were still opportunities for Lipscomb, but Arkansas didn't let go of it. And that was the difference between what happened tonight, winning by 16, finishing the game the right way after adversity struck, and a good team got within a couple of possessions there. So I thought that was good for Arkansas to answer the bell the way that it did, and Big Z accounted for a good part of that. Boogie Fland, Arkansas's leading scorer again. Well, I say again, he hasn't led Arkansas in scoring, but when you look at his, if you count the exhibition games, he's been in double figures every game. He's the only player to do that. 17 points tonight, actually led the team. He was 7 of 18 from the field, but really good inside the arc. 1 of 8 from 3, so he was 6 of 10 then inside the arc. Made both of his free throws for 17 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, and only 1 turnover after a 3-turnover game for him against TCU. Did a good job taking care of the basketball, but Boogie Fland with 17 points and it continues to show that he's going to be one of Arkansas's more reliable offensive players in that backcourt. Nelly Davis gets a start after not starting either exhibition game, starts tonight. And Arkansas got off to a slow start offensively, and I thought they settled on some threes, some low ball movement threes. They were stagnant, and then you saw Nelly and some others, Boogie, even DJ Wagner, start to drive their man one-on-one, use their athleticism, their size, and go one-on-one and just attack their defender to push them into the paint and get closer to the rim. And they finished off some really tough shots in there. But Nelly Davis with 15 points, he did some of that early in the game. He did knock down a 3, 6 big rebounds. Remember, he is a rebounder at the guard spot. He averaged over 6 a game last year at Florida Atlantic. He continues to show us those blue-collar efforts. Well, I mean, his first bucket in this game was a putback. It was a putback early when the offense was struggling. You got to get points the way you can get them. But he finished with 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, 2 turnovers in his minutes tonight. 7 of 12 from the field. You like to see that. 1 of 4 from 3. So, I think he hit a couple of threes maybe in the TCU game. So he's starting to thaw out. 15 points. That's good. Big Z, he had that run again. Remember that 6-0 run, a personal 6-0 run. That was half of his 12 points, 5 of 6 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3, 1 of 2 at the foul line, 3 rebounds, 3 blocks. So he led the block party tonight, 1 steal and a couple of turnovers. DJ Wagner, all 7 of his points in the first half. I thought they were big, though. Again, Arkansas had to figure out ways in their half court to score. They were getting it in transition, but really their best half court work was when Wagner and Nelly and Boogie were putting their head down and just attacking their man. Because what did Lipscomb's defense do? It spread out. They spread out with the zone, and they tried to space it, probably to eliminate to deal with the fact that they don't have a lot of quickness to close out on guys. So they tried to space it as much as they could. I think a problem there was Arkansas's guards. Their gap defense wasn't great. Arkansas's guards are too good. They exploited it, got into some of those drive angles, got into some of those little runners and mid-range shots. A lot of stuff attacking the paint and putting pressure on that rim. DJ Wagner finished with 7 points, 3 of 7. Only took 1 3 tonight. Missed it. 1 of 1 at the free throw line. He got an and 1 on a nice drive and finish. 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 turnovers now. Wagner had 5 turnovers against TCU, 3 tonight. He was a low turnover guy at Kentucky last year. So this tells me that players are still figuring each other out, still getting acclimated playing together. And DJ Wagner struggling a little bit right now with the basketball. 0 of 1 from 3 tonight, 0 of 3 in the last game. Low volume, he likes to drive. Go back to Kansas, he was 2 of 4, 50%, but again, his volume, he keeps it down. So we're still figuring out DJ Wagner. I think defensively he continues to play a strong game at that end of the floor. Trevor Brazile led Arkansas in rebounding for the 2nd straight game. He has not been a scorer to this point, but his value off the bench, you look at it, 8 rebounds. He had 9 against TCU. 8 tonight to lead the Razorbacks, 6 points on 3 of 5 shooting. Most of that in the rim, opportunistic scoring for him. But he also had a couple of steals. I think it's his 2nd game. I know I'm still talking about exhibition games that don't count. We got to talk about something in terms of what guys have put on a resume so far, what we've seen beyond just this game. So a couple of games now with a couple of steals. He also had a turnover. And then I thought the freshmen at times did some really good things. Carter Knox had a stretch there where he had to step back 3. 5 points and a little run there to help Arkansas continue to expand their first half lead and get it to double digits, get it out to 11. It had been kind of tight, and they closed the first half the right way. Carter Knox part of that, 5 points. Playing off the bench tonight, he started the 2 exhibition games. Billy Richmond, I thought, showed me more tonight than I've seen. He's done some good stuff in limited action, finished with 4 points, but really did a good job, I thought, being disruptive defensively, getting out and challenging guys defensively. And continue to believe that both of these guys' roles will continue to expand. Because we know Boogie Flan right now is a fixture in the big minutes and that starting group. And then when you see times when Boogie comes out of the game, or DJ Wagner comes out of the game, or even Nelly Davis comes out of the game, there are times where Arkansas, they get a little off kilter offensively, or they need to be settled down. So those guys are not off the court a whole lot. They have to take some, whether it's foul trouble. By the way, Arkansas had 3 players in the first half with 2 fouls each. DJ Wagner was one of those. Big Z was one of those. Didn't play much of the first half. He picked up 2 early fouls. And then Adu Thiero, who I haven't even talked about yet. 8 points for Thiero on 4 of 6 shooting. Most of that was just getting to the rim, power dunks, layups in transition. He was really hitting those passing lanes, flashing them, getting steals, just taking it from people, pickpocket. 3 steals for him tonight to lead the team. 4 rebounds, too. We know he'll rebound the ball. He's just really tough defensively to deal with. He makes some mistakes. He does gamble some, but, man, he can be a playmaker defensively. Jonas Adu, what are we, 16 minutes in? I haven't even talked about this. Jonas Adu made his debut. He didn't play. We didn't see him in any 5-on-5 in the tip-off tour practice back-to-back Hot Springs Pine Bluff. He went through some little basic drill stuff, but no 5-on-5 against GAs. Did not play in the exhibition season, missed both of those games. Checked into the game in the first half and played a few minutes. Same thing in the second half, a total of 7 minutes. 1 of 2 from the field for 2 points. He backed his man down. You'd like to see that. They isolated him on I think it was the right low box, or he ended up backing down into that box and turning over his shoulder and knocking in a little shot there. But an 8-footer. It was a really nice move. 3 rebounds for him in 7 minutes. He is a volume rebounder guy. The more he can get on the court, he's going to help Arkansas protect that rim, give Arkansas more physicality and presence in the paint at both ends. The scoring you'll take, but really you're looking at him as the rebounding and just taking up space and making it harder for teams to have any kind of frontline advantage against Arkansas. He'll bring that. All SEC defensive team a year ago. So, I've ran through a lot of stats. We've talked about both teams, what their shooting looked like, some of the facets of the game when you start talking about who won what. Arkansas, again, won most of it, all of it except second chance points. And again, this is a Lipscomb team. When you look at Will Pruitt, he's a guy that averaged 15 points a game last year, had 15 points in that club, that narrow loss, 3-point loss in North Little Rock to Arkansas, 15 points in the season opening win on the road against Duquesne. Arkansas held him down to 12 tonight. You'll take that. He was only 4 of 12 shooting from the field. He was 3 of 6 from 3, but everything else he tried to do, I thought Arkansas's length and quickness really gave him, because he's a guy at 6'2" or 6'3", whatever he is, he likes to also pressure the paint rim. They'll even mid-post him up and let him go to work. He didn't do very well. I mean, he did knock down half his threes. When we look at Arkansas now through 3 exhibition games, Arkansas doesn't make as many as its opponent typically, and they shoot at a higher percentage than the Razorbacks. At some point, that may become problematic. Kentucky fans, Big Blue Nation, they've talked about it a lot with Calipari. I'm not going to just leave that on the table and not bring it up. Arkansas has struggled through the exhibition season and now, again, 3-point shooting. But going back to what they did defensively on some of these players, the leading scorer, 30 points and 10 rebounds against Duquesne, a guy that didn't play last year, so he didn't play the Razorbacks. He sat out. The year before, almost 18 points a game, over 4.5 rebounds, but a 30-point, 10-rebound game in that big win for Lipscomb opening its season on the road at Duquesne. Tonight, Arkansas, he did have. He ended up with 16 points and 6 rebounds. But relative to what he did a couple of days ago, you held him in check. I think he was 5 of 12 shooting from the field, so nothing spectacular there. He did get to the free throw line. That was part of his production. I think he only hit 1 3, if I'm not mistaken. So Arkansas limited some of the stuff he likes to do. I would butcher his last name. I'm just calling him Jacob O. It's like a 9 or 10 letter last name, and the consonants and vowels don't add up to me. I can't pronounce it. And then they've got a transfer guard we talked about in the pregame as well yesterday, Powell. That was in the starting lineup, scored double digits in the season opening win. He did a good job at times tonight, knocked down some big threes, 12 points for him. And then got another name down here, Joe Anderson. He was also gave Arkansas fits last year in the Lipscomb win, or close loss rather, in North Little Rock. Big 8-assist game for him Monday night in their win. He didn't shoot all that well, but he always stuffs a stat sheet. 6 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, but I thought Arkansas overall did a good job on everybody. Again, Calipari says they had some mental letdowns and some breakdowns in his postgame press conference. Mental letdowns, some defensively, some stuff that they knew Lipscomb was going to be difficult because of the way they played to stay in front of at all times, but he thought they did a good job of staying in front of guys and being aggressive defensively. Those turnovers certainly helped Arkansas, and getting out in transition when your offense at times bogs down and the three shots aren't falling, getting out and getting those easy scores. Calipari did talk about a lot of that. But I think, again, when you look at Kansas, TCU, and now this team, Kansas, 69 points. Yeah, they were shorthanded. TCU, 66 points. Lipscomb, 60. Arkansas has done a really good job defensively, keeping teams that are used to scoring, getting around, pushing that 80 threshold, keeping them down. And so something's working there. And we know Calipari, one of the knocks has been the last 2 years how poor his defenses were, how good his offenses were, especially three-point shooting last year. We haven't seen that with this team. This team may not be built for the three-point shooting. They're certainly built for that middle game and getting to the rim and getting out in transition. I don't think we can repeat that enough because it's been the trademark. One of the things I've said for months, talking about looking ahead, Calipari teams, his best teams, or when they get things going, is they're really good in transition. Even if they're not throughout a 40-minute game, they do it at times when the games maybe get close and competitive. They find ways to get easy scores and separate themselves. So far, Arkansas has won every fast break scoring opportunity when you count the 2 exhibition games. We talked about areas they haven't been great in, offensive rebounding. Even though if they win the turnover battle, they have these large stretches of a lot of turnovers. Some of these other problem areas, second chance points, where they continue to not win that. That was the 3rd game in a row there where they've lost second chance points. But transition is where they have been really good. Also, again, they were not great in points in the paint in terms of winning those battles in those first 2 exhibition games. Different kind of competition. Tonight, they were dominant there. And again, a lot of that, when you're looking at points in the paint, is what you did in transition. Arkansas, 23 points in transition. I think all of that was getting to the basket. I don't know that any of that was, maybe if there was a pull-up 3 in there, I missed it. So that might be part of it. But most of it was points in the paint, getting all the way to the rim. The one thing you like about opening up your season, Arkansas really didn't struggle tonight in terms of putting a team away. We talked about that little stretch late in the game. Arkansas answered the bell, pushed it back out to double digits, and your fans weren't, worrying it was going to be a loss on opening night when you got inside those final few possessions, the last 3 or 4 minutes. Arkansas had built enough of a cushion there where it had become academic at that point. So you like to win that way. These are the kind of games you can lose at home. Arkansas doesn't want to look ahead to Baylor. Yeah, Baylor's coming off a 38-point loss on the road at number 6 Gonzaga, number 8 Baylor. 38 points, embarrassing. Langston Love, a double-figure scoring guard. Played with Moses Moody back in the day, former Hog, pro Hog, now in his 4th NBA season. They played together at Montverde Academy back in high school. That's how long Langston Love's been around. He's a good college player, good shooting guard. Covered him when he was on the AAU circuits. And they were without him. He was cleared to play in that game. It was a game-time decision. Scott Drew opted not to use him. I'm not saying that would have how much impact that would have had on a 38-point loss, but sometimes when you're not at full strength, had Arkansas had Jonas Adu for TCU, that might have been the difference in losing by 1 and then dominating the physicality or playing even there and build on a 13-point lead and win going away. So sometimes a player can really impact things. But we'll see if Baylor's at full strength. VJ Edgecombe, a 5-star guy that's just a stat sheet stuffer, explosive 6'5" wing, did not shoot the ball well on the road. I think he ended up making only 2 field goals over like 10 or 11 or 12 attempts. Did some other things well, rebounded well, 7 boards, blocked 3 shots, I think. He's everywhere, just explosive, good player, smart player for a young guy. They've got other guys, Jeremy Rhodes, the veteran guard at Duke, who was on that team that beat Arkansas in the Elite 8 3 years ago, wasn't it? To move Duke into the Final Four. So a 5th-year senior that's now starting in Baylor's backcourt. They've got some other guys that have returned as well. Baylor's a good team. And just like Arkansas might have, if you were scoreboard watching in the exhibition season, TCU getting beat by 28, against Texas. The same weekend, Arkansas beat number 1 Kansas by 16. If you did any scoreboard watching and making projections off of that, we saw what happened. Same thing here. You can't look at that Baylor result and think you're going to get anything but the Bears' best. And they're closer to home. It's in Dallas, not on their campus, closer to home. Calipari said it in the postgame. He goes, those guys all week long are working on, Scott Drew's got them working on drills, diving on the floor for loose balls, all kinds of stuff to get them tougher, get them better, and get their attention. And so you can expect that's what Arkansas is going to be facing when it goes back to Dallas. Was there any benefit from already playing there? Razorbacks coaching staff thinks it was. They called it roadkill, building those road rituals, and you're going back to the same area where you were just at. You don't want to come back with another loss. The first one didn't count, this one will. It's a great opportunity, though. You picked up a good win against a mid-major projected, by the way, by everybody, to win the Atlantic Sun this year. Lipscomb, Joe Lenardi has Lipscomb projected up to win the league and win the automatic qualifier to be an NCAA tournament team. So this won't build your resume in terms of how it helps your net and some of the scoring on that stuff. When you look at KenPom, I think coming into tonight, Lipscomb was 126 in KenPom. But the point is, the Baylor game will help your resume. Even if Baylor goes 0-2 in week 1, you know it's going to end up being a top 50 rated team when the dust settles in net. It's a neutral site. You combine those two factors, it's a quad 1-win opportunity. Arkansas can add to the resume at the end of week 1 in college basketball. They opened up well tonight. You see the Slobber and Hog back there. The Slobber and Hog was pleased on what happened on Nolan Richard Court tonight. Things went as planned. You want to win that first game for Calipari. Tonight in the post-game presser, he was asked about his first win here, and he diverted to talking about when he got his first win as a college coach at 28 years old back at UMass. He started talking about some of that stuff. He is a great storyteller. But I think one of the things he says, they've got a lot to work on. That's on him. He was pleased with a lot of this tonight. A lot of it, he scratches his head. Not only their lack of efficiency shooting the three, he says players need to get on the court and work on this stuff. They need to come be in the gym and working on not just taking threes, but figuring out where not only spots that are in there, maybe more in their comfort zone, but they need to shoot these shots the same way every time in repetition, which is exactly right. When you look at some of the best three-point shooters in the NBA, how do they do it? Not only they get up a lot of shots, but they don't change things in their routine. They take each shot the same way, so it becomes muscle memory and that builds their confidence. And I think Calipari was kind of touching on some of that. Can you do all that on the fly as you're in your season now? Was this stuff that maybe they were drilling down on or trying to get guys to do in June and July, and it just, for whatever reason, he's still talking about it? I think there are definite question marks here. I'm not as concerned about Arkansas's poor free throw shooting the last two games. Very low volume. They were great in game 1, 23 of 28, I believe, over 82%. Last couple of games didn't shoot a lot, didn't make a lot. Maybe the difference in that TCU game, you could argue it was, but again, an exhibition game that didn't count. Calipari said after this one, he was glad they had that experience against TCU because what happened when they faced adversity, they let go of it and they lost. Tonight, maybe they had they remembered what they didn't do the last time and were able to fix things, is what they did. Again, that 11-0 run, 60-56, Arkansas had its biggest lead, 60-45. And so that 11-0 run changed everything with about 9 minutes left, just inside 9 minutes, or could have. And Arkansas, again, ends up building its biggest lead after that. 17 points, I think, was as high as it got. And then they settle on this 16-point win. I might be wrong about that. I think that's right. But 1-0, and now you take on a Baylor team that's going to be, licking wounds and getting ready to try not to go 0-2. We talked about this in the pregame yesterday. You'd love 2-0. 1-1 are safe betting odds. 0-2, I didn't see that happen. I felt like Arkansas would take care of business here. They certainly did that tonight. The Razorbacks did. All right, let's get into recruiting real quick. I probably left some stuff out I wanted to talk about, or maybe stuff that you'd like to know. Folks are cleaning up in here. They're probably ready for me to get out of here pretty soon. Just real quick, we know it's coming up Monday. Monday, November, what is that? The 11th is the day that five-star class of 2025 five-star guard Malik Thomas, 6'4" out of Pittsburgh, plays at overtime elite, electric scorer, 7th-ranked player in the country. When you look at the composite recruiting rankings, he is set to make his commitment announcement. We've been saying for a while the public commitment announcement will be for Arkansas because he's privately done that. Weird stuff happens in recruiting. I never say I'm 100% on just about anything. We're really close to it. But that's fully expected at this point. He did cut his list down from 7 to Arkansas, UConn. Arkansas and UConn are the last 2 visits he took. Ironically, Darius Acuff Jr., the other 5-star guard, top 10 rated guard, actually 5th ranked in the country, 6'3" point guard out of Detroit. His last 2 visits were to Arkansas and UConn. Took the Arkansas visit in May, took UConn later in June, and then he ended up committing to Arkansas in late July. So there is some, there is a little bit of symbolism there, I guess. Similarities there with these two guys. And remember, they were together on Malik Thomas's visit to Arkansas in early October. Acuff was back for his second visit and was there, to help recruit Malik Thomas. What a weekend that was. The football Hogs, best win of the season against then fourth-ranked Tennessee. Everything seemed to come together, and then it's just been a snowball of good news after that. Now you've seen the list cut to 3 again. It's Arkansas, UConn, Pittsburgh, the hometown school, where he visited back in Auburn way back when. I mean, it was way before. It's a long time ago. It's Arkansas, and so we're just going to get that public announcement on Monday. If something crazy's happened to upset the apple cart, that would shock me. I've heard nothing, but this is inevitable. So we'll see. It's coming right up. You got that to look forward to. I think the other thing is we talked for so long about Chris Sinak Jr., the 5-star big, versatile stretch 4.5 at the college level, top 10 rated 5-star. Everything's a top 10 rated 5-star with Calipari. It's just repetition saying the same thing. But you got to get it out there, put it on the record. 6'11", from the Baton Rouge area growing up. He plays at Link Academy now. We knew forever that LSU was getting his last visit. Well, they're getting that's this weekend. The visits this weekend to LSU. So here's the thing. When I say last visit, it's the last visit leading up until the start of the early signing period. And that's interesting. The early signing period is November 13th to the 20th. So it starts on a Wednesday and it's a week long. We know that Malik Thomas is making his commitment announcement on the 11th. So 2 days later, the early period starts. I've said all along he's expected to sign early, as is Darius Acuff. Arkansas will have 2 top 7 rated 5-star guards in that backcourt to lock up the best recruiting class in high school basketball for backcourt players. That part of it's over. Arkansas can add to it, but those 2 right there locks that up. But so you've got a lot coming up here with those dates. So you've got Sinak Jr. on campus at LSU this weekend, also with the early period starting next week, a few days later. There is disagreement on this. He's taken a lot of visits. People I talked to, some think he's going to go ahead and get it done early. They still think LSU may be the leader. The last time I was on, I mentioned we've been talking about LSU, Arkansas, Tennessee, and then Caleb Wilson being Arkansas, LSU, Arkansas, and Kentucky, with Caleb Wilson being in that mix with Arkansas and Kentucky and North Carolina, the third team for him, maybe on the outside looking in. LSU may still be a front runner here. The last time we were on, I brought in Tennessee and said, I'm hearing that there may be some movement there. Maybe not. Arkansas is in a great position anytime Calipari gets them on campus, and we know Sinak visited in that October 18th through 20th weekend, but things are starting to wrap up if guys are going to sign early. If they're going to sign early, this thing's going to come to a close at some point soon. And then you just figure, where's Arkansas when the dust settles? If they're locking up that top-rated backcourt, they could still add another wing player, but they want to get one of these versatile 3-4 guys, or 4-5, however you want to frame it, however they're going to actually fit. Somehow they all figure it into your front line recruiting. And right now you're loading up in the backcourt. So you'd love to get a Caleb Wilson, who missed the last 2 weekends, were one planned visit forever that wasn't publicly announced. The following weekend that he came out on Twitter, a day after I tweeted he wants to still visit Arkansas, he goes to Twitter the next day and says, I'm visiting Arkansas this weekend. So it was the next opportunity, and then he ends up not doing that. We're hearing, he still plans to visit, but if he's going to sign early, you're running out of calendar. Now, we talked about this November 13th through 20th week-long signing period for November. You also have an NCAA dead period that runs the 11th through the 14th. So Monday, the 11th, when Malik Thomas is going to announce his commitment, starts a 4-day dead period for the NCAA, so you can't take visits. But that 4-day dead period ends on the 14th, so it overlapped with the start of the early signing period by a day. And then on that weekend, the 15th to the 17th, the dead period's over. You can take visits again. You're in the middle of the early signing period, and Arkansas, just so happens that weekend, the football Hogs, after a bye week, are going to host Texas. So in theory, the basketball team doesn't have a game that weekend, by the way, not at home, not on the road. They'll be off. So in theory, you could bring visitors in for that weekend. Guys that maybe could sign early. That's squeezing in a lot at that juncture, but those things happen sometimes. Could a Caleb Wilson come in at that point? Could they take a visit then? And again, these conversations with people that follow recruiting or that cover it on the national level, some of them I'm having with them, they're getting further and further away with the idea that although these guys stacked up their visits leading into this early period, that they may go ahead and wait it out and wait to the spring. They're not convinced that Caleb Wilson or Sanak, two top 10 rated 5-stars, both of them 6'9" in Wilson's case, 6'11" in Sanak's case, versatile guys on the front line, but no one's convinced right now that they're going to sign early. But I still tend to think one or both might, with the way that they've dropped these visits, and they're not. I haven't seen anything expanded to think that they might want to take them during basketball season. Now, if they don't sign early, they probably will take visits and wait if they're going to wait it out to the spring. So there's stuff going on there. I didn't mention Sean Abayev tonight, but I've said it before. 6'7" combo guard, national number 24 according to Rivals, a high-level 4-star. I think he's a 5-star value. Versatile, can play 1, 2, or 3. Love his game out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Took that Arkansas visit in a midweek in October, right after Malik Thomas was on campus. There are at least one national recruiting analyst that has Arkansas, thinks Arkansas is the leader there. Another contact I have also thinks Arkansas is there. Top 5, he released his final 5. The Hogs are on it. That makes sense. So is Cincinnati. So is Arizona State, Oregon. I'm leaving somebody out. Maybe Auburn, another SEC school. So we'll see with Abayev. Tonight, Arkansas, by the way, had someone in the house for this game. For a season opener, class of 2027. I reported this yesterday. I got a photo of him and tweeted that out tonight of being courtside here while the team was warming up well before the game started. But Tyrone Jamison, a 6'2" guard out of Louisiana, class of 2027, so he's a high school sophomore, but ESPN ranks him the number 10 player in the country in that 2027 class. Of course, that's a 5-star to their top 10 rated 5-star. It's just what Calipari does. But he was at the game tonight, so he was on an unofficial visit. Arkansas's had a lot of visit activity. You go back to late September after A-Cup was on campus in early May before committing in July. A lot of just nothing, no visitors, nothing. And then since late September now, I think they've had, pushing 10 or so guys that have been on campus for various, mostly official visits and going to football games in some respects. All of them going to basketball practice when they're here. A couple of them now, Isaiah Seeley out of Springdale, who Arkansas is still recruiting, class of 2025. ESPN ranks him number 55, a 4-star. Had him in for a game, had him on campus to watch a practice 2 days before that. He was in for Kansas. And then tonight you had another visitor in for the season opener. So the last 2 games, exhibition that was here, the last 2 games here, exhibition, Kansas, tonight, Lipscomb. You've had someone in the house to be part of this atmosphere and to see the game. And then I'm sure the staff is doing other things with these players while they have them here. But I think the important thing with that is, this wasn't a packed house tonight. Maybe 12,500 is what I estimated. I don't know what the official thing will say, probably because it's a sellout technically. They'll probably put it down as 19.2. I estimated about 12,500. Someone else said it might have been 11,000. I don't know. I thought it was more than that. But it's still a great atmosphere for college basketball, and it's good to get visitors in and showcase your program. Calipari, one other thing, I'm going to say goodnight and get down. I'm going to finish up my game article. I've got about a third of a game article already published. It's out on Twitter. It's out on HogvilleNET. I'm going to finish it up, add quotes. But one of the things as we leave here, Calipari said, he was asked about Scott Drew, who's going to compete against, when Arkansas plays Baylor, that maybe Scott Drew could have had that Baylor or that Kentucky job when Calipari was leaving for Arkansas, and he was asked about that. He talked about him, and he talked about Mark Pope and how those guys, they're in great situations, good for them. And then he said, he just sat back in his chair and he goes, but I'm happy. He goes, I am happy here. I'm happy here in this place. If you're a fan base with a legend, this guy's a 10 plus, already enshrined in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. That's as good as it gets. He's been in that for over a decade. It's his 4th Division I school and spanning 4 decades. He's had great success at all the other stops, Final Fours, everywhere he's been, but prior to now, for him to say that at this juncture, you'll take that. That's better than leaving it at what he did talking about other coaches. And I take him at his word. He acknowledges the fact he's got work to do still, things he wants to get corrected on this team, but he also seems to be content with the progress. he said it in a practice or shoot around, he got goosebumps as his team was getting ready for this game. That felt genuine to me, the way that he imparted that. No coach is perfect. He took a lot of crap leaving Kentucky. Maybe some of that was justified. Maybe a lot of it wasn't. But the one key you want is what you're locking into is this guy cashing checks. And that's it. That's what it's about. I don't see that. Not the way he continues to recruit, not some of the stuff we've already seen in some of these games. Arkansas, again, there's a lot of good you could take from it, even though some of it's exhibition, opening game tonight. But you feel like this is a guy that's putting in the effort and is actually enjoying what he's doing. So maybe the batteries are recharged, and here comes Baylor, number 16 Arkansas against number 8 Baylor on a neutral court technically. Arkansas is going to try to get a quad one win at the end of the first week of the college season. That's a great building block. And if you lose, you can learn from that. You get your second loss in Dallas. One of them doesn't count. Come home, clean up your wounds, and work on it. Any word on Calipari? Nothing new on him. And we could have expanded on some of this and talked about some of these individual players more. Maybe, I kind of harped on the three-point shooting probably more than anything else in terms of a negative. But it's valid. And again, nobody's above some criticism when it's fair. But I do want to part with the positive that Calipari said he's happy to be here, and you want to build on that. All right, folks, thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I appreciate it. If you haven't done it already, please hit subscribe, like, and share. I'm Kevin McPherson. I'm also signing off. I've got more work to do down the hill tonight. In the next few days, by the way, I'll be covering NBA. I'll be on the road to cover an NBA game. Then I'll be in Dallas for Arkansas Baylor. So I will be there for that game. We'll do a pregame. We're going to do a postgame. We're going to have all the game coverage from Hogville. But until next time, take care, and I'll see you then.